70% of Americans are on at least one prescription drug, and 50% are on at least two, and 20% are on a whopping 5 or more drugs. The targets of drugs are typically proteins, which are the things that do the work in your body. So your proteins come from your DNA, but they're not made directly from your DNA. They're made through RNA, which in turn instructs your cells to make the proteins. Now, the collection of proteins is called the proteome. For the first time, we can really see thousands of proteins at once. We use a technique called mass spectrometry, which lets us follow these thousands of proteins in your blood. We often analyze proteins in people's blood, and the reason for that is that the blood is the garbage can, if you will, of your body. So when you get sick, cells will often die, or viruses will cause problems and things, and it will wind up shedding diagnostic proteins into your blood. And so what researchers often try and do is study people's blood to see if they can see some of these unusual proteins and see if something's wrong with the person. Now, we're often trying to discover new proteins, and those are called biomarkers, that reflect something's wrong with someone's health. So ideally, we would like to have markers for every disease you can imagine, and be able to follow that in a very simple blood test. For example, when men get prostate cancer, often they make a particular protein called PSA that gets elevated, and it's due to the fact that the cancer cells tend to have more of the protein than would normally be present. So analyzing the collection of proteins gives us a better idea of what kinds of things we might use for therapies. Now, we can also combine this with DNA information as well. We can actually predict people's drug responses and drug doses based on their DNA sequence. Some people will get very nasty side effects of various drugs based on their DNA sequence. So we'll be studying in incredible detail the proteomics in the blood of Scott, who's in space, and Mark, who's on the ground, during this whole year and even beyond. And basically, we want to see the changes that occur and discover biomarkers that might be indicative of the different kinds of stresses they might be encountering. So Scott, after he blasts off, will feel a lot of G-forces, and that'll cause some kinds of stresses. And we'll be able to see what proteins change after that happens. And likewise, we'll be able to see what kinds of protein changes occur while he's traveling along in space and after he returns back to Earth. And so by having the sequence of the astronauts, we'll be able to better understand what kinds of drugs they should avoid and what kinds of doses they should get. This is going to be very valuable for long journeys in space because we want to get the right drug dose to the right person at the right time. So in summary, proteomics is an amazing field where you can follow biomarkers and learn all kinds of changes in people's bodies and as they travel through space.